influencers? Are they the new celebrities of tomorrow? The moderator for this session is Pranay Saru, founder and CEO Chatterbox. I have with us Paras Tomar, social media influencer, Deepthi Chandak, social media influencer, Siddhi Manjaktini, social media influencer. I hand it, I hand it over to Pranay to take it forward, and we look forward for an exciting discussion.
Thanks, Soham. Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing good. We're very excited about this, discussion that we're going to have. So thanks for joining us. And we've been chatting to these. I've been chatting with these awesome creators. I'm going to use the word creators more than influencers because I've realized that it's just a better word these days. But I've been chatting with these awesome creators, and I don't know if they're tomorrow's celebrities, and I don't know if they're today's celebrities. I don't know if they're tomorrow's entrepreneurs, but they're super exciting, and they're doing this insane, like awesome stuff on your mobile phones. And beyond, and then they're moving beyond your mobile phones as well. So super excited to talk to these guys. I'm gonna allow everyone here to say a quick hi. We've got Deepthi, Siddhi, and Paras, and yeah, we're gonna talk a lot about like the influencer economy. We're gonna talk about their stories. We're gonna talk about how it's impacting businesses, and yeah, at the end we'll take some questions. Um, so hey guys, how's it going?
Right?
Hey again. All right. Cool. Let me jump to the first question itself, and I feel like I can't start a Zoom call without really addressing this last 1 year and how life altering it has been for so many of us. Of course, it's been very unfortunate in many cases, but my understanding is that it's actually been quite exciting for creators because not much has changed and yet everything has. So yeah, I would just love to know how this last 1 year has been for you guys and how it's impacted you. Maybe we can start with Siddhi and we will move across.
Yeah, I mean, hi. First of all, it's Siddhi Mahajan Katti, not whatever
Yeah,
this
of
is.
course.
Correction, sir. I think in the last year, which was the pandemic year, it's kind of brought out an exquisitive change, right? And that change has taught all the creators to be accountable and responsible. That's the first step, right, towards creating your content. And personally, I feel like, I mean, I've always been a person who talks and shows about what happens in my life or how I
Yeah.
am as a person, what are the changes that I'm imbibing, etc., etc. I think that was accepted, and I think it was it was taken really, really well. I think that was one of the changes that I felt personally. And there was also a lot of changes in terms of every single day there was some new creator out there. Every single day there was some new person putting out something funny, something about bringing that social justice out there and everything. And and
Right.
and that itself uh, became like a big change during the pandemic. So I mean, that's what I would like. I mean, I wanted to start off with.
Interesting. Thanks, Siddhi. And I know that you started out like not on digital and had a blockbuster movie, and all of that has happened for you. And there's but I'm damn curious to know about your story, but we'll come back to it. Let me just say hi to the rest. Uh, Paras, hey, I was just talking about the fact that creators becoming entrepreneurs. You're a classic, amazing example of that. So super curious to know your story, but start us with how you've done acting and modeling and then becoming a digital creator and how this last year's been.
Actually, what is very interesting is like even Siddhi's story. For all of us who I was primarily a journalist, I was a television presenter, and I was an actor. But I think mostly now people always recognize us from the phones and the content that they've actually seen on the phone. So
Sure.
the lockdown in that sense was very interesting because it suddenly decentralized the whole and rightly put the creator market, because otherwise we were always only sort of in the bigger cities, because we were always going out to certain places to shoot. We were going at these nice sets to shoot. But the reason it decentralized it in the creator connectivity aspect was the fact that people were sitting in remote villages and making content, and which was what I was doing. So I was shooting for a show in February last year, and I went to my nani's house, which is in Himachal. That's where the lockdown happened.
Nice.
So I was actually in a remote town of Himachal Pradesh for about 8 months. Okay, and and literally I was staying in this beautiful wood villa, so I had enough place to make content. We started a business from there because I realized that when people were sitting at home, and my flagship was always Paras Kinuske. When people were sitting at home, they were looking into the mirror constantly, which meant that they were always saying, "Hey, my hair needs to be beautiful. I need to lose weight. I need to do that." Because I think people suddenly there was more narcissism because you were looking at yourself the whole day on Zoom calls,
Sure.
right? Which
Yeah.
which meant that there was instantly I thought that there was this big market for us to actually launch a second company, which is Stud Muffin, to say, "Hey, you've got this time at hand. Let's lose the weight. Let's get into shape," which is something you've always wanted to do. And I think which was the time where I think a lot of self-development, self-help, self-motivation became really big in the year 2020. And while mental health became a good focus, I think for people also physically, they realized that they had now no excuses to not do the transformation that they've been putting off for so long for the lack of time. So I think because we saw that opportunity and people were more glued into the phones, and I think it was more relatable, I think that was an interesting area to sort of jump into entrepreneurship, and that's what I did.
That's amazing, man. Congratulations on this ride, and I'm going to talk to you a lot more about this. But nice. Hey, Deepti, how's it going for you? And we know that of course you're a creator. You're doing some, and you do like really diverse type of content. It's what could be called, I don't know, lifestyle content, but it's everything, right? You do fashion, you do health and fitness, and you're doing this amazing magazine as well. So tell us, how this last 1 year has been for you, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. So I would just add to the other two. Last
Sure.
1 year, of course, when the lockdown just happened, for me it was a little disturbing because I was traveling a lot and I was constantly traveling. Like every month I would travel to a nice place, create a lot of content. So my content was always like travel, fashion, everything together. And then came a time where you were just sitting at home. So obviously I had to think of other ideas, and that's where I started creating a lot of content at home. And that gave birth to L'Espresso. So L'Espresso magazine is the creator. I mean, I started it in lockdown. And I come from the luxury background. So I have around 15 plus years of experience in the luxury field. I've worked with brands like Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci, and many others.
Awesome.
So I had that, I had that on mind that I want to do something in the field, and L'Espresso was something that I curated during this time, the last 1 year. Besides that, like I was telling you before, I was very interested in health and fitness. So I focused a lot on yoga and other things, and kind of went to Rishikesh, spent a couple of months there, and got myself the training.
Nice.
So it's been a good ride, I would say. It gave me a lot of time to think of the way forward, and gave a lot of new ideas. And like Siddhi mentioned before, that there was lots happening on Instagram and other platforms with the new video creators. TikTok suddenly got banned, and you see that Instagram is flooded with creators.
Yeah.
So there was also a need to kind of think of other ideas, And as a content creator, you always have to, keep thinking of new ideas and come up with something different, to kind of get to your audience. I think that work was possible because I had a lot of time on hand.
Awesome, thanks, Nidhi. Actually, that's interesting. You bring that up. I mean, it's been such a big change in the content landscape in terms of the TikTok ban. I know, Paras, you were heavily on TikTok. Was that your primary platform before Instagram, or were you across? And for all of you, like, did this impact you directly or indirectly? I'd love to know.
So I had about close to 4 million people on TikTok. So actually, Nuske by Paras was a brand which came out of TikTok. So yes. But
Nice.
once TikTok shut down, I think we were all like, "Hey, what just happened?" We were all just like, "No,
Yeah.
no. Where? How are we gonna make money now?" But oddly enough, I think the ban on TikTok was actually rather lucrative for creators like myself, because suddenly there was a whole bunch of these Indian apps that came out, were offering a lot of money to us to be there. So it wasn't. It actually was pretty good because we all made more money with it. You're absolutely right when Dipti says that, I think more people started sort of migrating to Instagram, because before this, the demographic of people who were following Instagram was more sort of SECA, the tier one cities. And now even
True.
on Instagram, I see that there's more Hindi and there's more regional languages, because I think the sense of aesthetic there is completely different. And with that, what has evolved is the content. Because if I knew that my content was being watched by Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, I was making a certain kind of content. So
Right.
with TikTok having gone, and sort of Instagram in some way has replaced it, yes, because even our content now mine is definitely all Hindi now, and it's more pan India as being more elitist. Now, for example, when Deepthi talked about the fact that she's part of DNG and these bigger brands, as a content creator, also you completely curate your content in a certain way to see who's watching this, right? So I, for one, had to completely realign what we're doing and how you're creating this content in order to look more aspirational, because I think that's what a lot of people wanted to watch. So there was definitely a change in tone.
Exciting, man. Siddhi and Deepti, were you guys on TikTok, and did it matter, or life goes on?
So actually,
Okay.
sorry, Siddhi, you can start.
So I wasn't on TikTok. I had joined it right before the pandemic, and then I saw everybody creating short videos and whatever, the dub smash and everything. So I joined, and then the TikTok ban happened. So it kind of didn't impact me at all. But one thing that I wanted to add is, when the lockdown happened, right, there was something that was missing, and that was called entertainment, right? And people just saw social media or any kind of app or whatever it is, it was just a story for them, with just different people as their characters for in that story, right? And I think that's what happened. No TikTok, switch to Instagram, and then there were like other million stories that came out over there. So I mean, that's what I wanted to add, saying that the demand for entertainment was not just with the Prime Video or Netflix or movies. It was also created by us. So
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, to actually add to that, so I was
Right.
also not on TikTok until COVID started. I got on it as an entertainment platform. But what happened is, suddenly when TikTok got banned, you see that Instagram is just going haywire. Like there's so much
Right.
happening. It felt like, I felt that I'm kind of not fitting in here. There's so much happening. And that's when I started creating short videos for Reels, in order to get to that audience. So for me, it was like a creation of something different because of the ban that happened, but I was not really on TikTok.
Got it. Cool. So
also one more thing. Oh,
sure.
I'm sorry,
No, go for it. Go for it.
So, I mean, this part where TikTok has impacted or not, right? I felt like there was TikTok during the lockdown, and it was giving certain kind of entertainment, and there was also Instagram, which had live, like every single person that's live. I think,
Right.
like, if I would open my Instagram, it would have like some 10-15 people just live, and I could just choose which one to choose. I mean, which one to watch,
Right.
right? So that was another. I think that was a good switch, is what I would like to add.
That's great. No, that's crazy. I mean, it's been such an interesting year, and I feel like it's going to just impact this industry so much. It's just the digital industry so much, because that entire innovation that was there for people to pick up the phone and create content, for these sort of discussions to happen. I mean, you would have to travel to an event, and like Paras, you were saying, you would have to wear certain clothes, and just do the whole shebang to to make these sort of experiences happen, and it's become so much easier. I'm going to try and keep making this comparison to celebrities, because that's the topic that was given to me, and that's what we're here to talk about. But it's really it's so interesting, right? So one, if you think about it, creators are not limited to having shoot locations, and when they're trying to create content. And when I'm talking celebrities, I'm trying to compare to what the Indian consumer typically understands as a celebrity, right? It's the movie actor, right? There's a sports celebrity, etc. as well, but I'm really focusing on the sports actor here, because I think what's really changed is that, I mean, and firstly, all creators are celebrities, in my opinion, and all celebrities are now turning creators as well. They have to, But that's really what's got unlocked, because you don't have to hold back, wait for a director and a movie script. You can really unleash your story on your own. And distribution is your own as well, right? Of course, your dependency is there to an extent on a platform. And I know creators like Paras are breaking that dependency by having a direct channel to their audience as well. But that's, to me, is probably one of the biggest, one of the most interesting aspects of a creator versus a celebrity. If you guys have points on that, or I'll move forward.
I think I have one because I started off from the movies and then got into the digital platform, right? So why? I mean,
So
let's
tell
say
us a
like
little bit about that journey, Siddhi, actually, if you don't mind.
yeah, sure. So I was a part of my theater club since my, I don't know, since my first grade. And then it was in my 11th or 12th grade where I performed internationally. And the director was my super senior from school. And then he spoke to my dramatics teacher to understand if I can come for an audition. And then just things just happened.
Okay.
And we didn't know that, I mean, the movie that I acted in, it's called Anandam. It's a Malayalam movie. And we didn't know that it was going to be an overnight success, a great record breaker where it ran for 100 days all over the
Amazing.
country. And yeah, that's how I started, right? And then, of course, people wanted to interact with the movie stars. And what was that platform? It was not the theaters that we went, or the TV interviews that we did, right? It was the social media. And recently that time it was in 2016 when Instagram had become the thing, right? And there were a lot of people who were connecting with me and all of that. But again, coming back to the topic where uh, uh, initially, like to get into movies, I had to have a portfolio. Now they just look at my Instagram following. That's how
Sure.
it's changed.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it's changed. They want to see how I look in a sari, Instagram. They want to see how I look in Western wear, they see Instagram. They want to see if I can talk in this language, Instagram. So, I mean, Instagram has become, the Instagram for me has become my portfolio, and that has
Nice.
been and a really big change.
Awesome.
That's what I wanted to add to that. So yeah.
That's
Also,
crazy.
in the way
Yeah.
in the way that people sort of interact with us, there's a huge difference when somebody meets you when they've seen you on a film or a show, as opposed to when people meet you when they've seen you from videos. Because when they're seeing Paras that they may have seen on an Amazon show or a film, it's like, okay, there's some amount of like, oh, I've seen you there, but you're not reachable. Whereas the accessibility quotient completely changes when they see you as a creator. They say, hey, I watch your videos every day, and
True.
you look exactly the same. So I find that the creator aspect. I know Siddhi's is like, yeah, I totally agree with that, because I think that happens a lot. Because I think the creator aspect to that is, I think the reachability is more. People relate to you a lot more. They actually have a sense that you're one of them, and I think that intimacy is definitely something that the social media does. So, the larger thing of saying, are the influencers celebrities of tomorrow and are they today? I think it's also sort of redefined the whole question of celebrityhood, because what happened, celebrity in our head was a word where traditionally it meant somebody who was unreachable, but
Yeah,
somebody you
like
looked
Shah
up
Rukh
to.
Khan.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
unreachable.
Yeah, but with influencers and creators, it's like these are people who are in your house or on your screen. On one app you've got Tinder open and you've got like a creator profile open. So that's how it goes. That's how reachable it is. So I think that's definitely been a different. It's redefined popularity in a different way. It's more accessible.
That's true. That's crazy. Yeah, and I think what's been really cool is that all creators are not playing characters. There are a few who play characters on there, but they're actually playing themselves, and I think that makes a big difference. I was watching this thing on YouTube. It's called. I'm slightly older maybe than actually Paras. I think you look 17, but you are 35. I checked this out.
Thanks for totally age shaming me there. I was like, he's gonna pass this. He's gonna pass this. Thanks, brother. It's just done
You're
without
welcome,
that.
man. but it works, right? I mean, it works. I mean, if you look 17 and you're 35, but my point is, I kind of grew up watching a lot of MTV and Channel V, like in my younger days, and I was watching this thing called the OG influencers the other day, which had Gaurav Kapoor and Juhi and Cyrus and all these guys. They're coming and talking about this whole. I mean, how basically the digital spaces kind of changed everything, and how they were basically influencers but on TV. And I think that was a big difference back then for me as well. They were playing themselves in a VJs were playing themselves versus playing characters, and I think they got really excited. It got really exciting. But yeah, and I think what you guys have done is you've put so much pressure on traditional celebrities now. Like a lot of them just don't know how to, talk to a mobile phone without a director telling them what to do, or without. I mean, so I feel bad for celebrities because they've had to like really like change their style in the last few years because of you. So you know.
I remember at one point there was a whole bunch of actors that we knew who would be very elitist saying, we can't dance on the Lokanwala back road. I mean, we need a set for that. And today, if you see what the biggest Bollywood stars were all dancing on their mobile phone because I think they realized that you had to just get with the time. So there was almost at some point there was a mildly elitist attitude that came from actors saying, but this is beneath us because, like you said, they wanted a set and a spot dada and a director. But I think everyone sort of realized the intimacy of the medium and they said, okay, we're going to do the same thing. And very often, and this happens even as a television presenter, a lot of the shows I would host would get much lesser views on TV. And you couldn't rival the number of views when the same thing was on this medium and it got like, I remember I was doing a show for one of these leading Indian channels and we put up that show, on television, they had a certain rating. It was all right. It wasn't great. And the same travel show blew up on the internet.
Sure.
So you suddenly realize that was very, very different.
And right now, what's happening? I wanted to say that I've seen that a lot of creators are now seen on TV screens. So they were actually not actors. They had nothing to do with films, nothing to do with, the daily soaps. But so many of them, because they are great creators and they've showed their talent through these platforms like Instagram and TikTok, now they are on screen. So I think it has worked both ways. For some creators, it has gotten them to the big screen, and the big screen guys had to put in some efforts to, kind of build up a community here. However, it was very easy for them. They already have a huge fan following, and in India, I think celebrities are still, they are gods for them. A lot of these small places that we were talking about before, celebrities are still god for them. So yes, of course, I mean, you can be a celebrity, being an influencer or a content creator, but I don't think so we can go close to that at all.
Really, I'm surprised with you because I actually think it's gotten quite. I mean, it's not going to be the same for sure. I understand that, like, unless you break, out of that, mobile screen as well and become, a name across table rooms and breakfast rooms. But I generally think it's created a whole different layer itself, right? I don't think that comparison is in the same parallel. It's in a different parallel, in my opinion. And it's a little because of what I see happening here as well. What Paras was talking about. It's this phenomena is not limited to the top cities anymore, and I think that's where the way I see this is that it's the movies that got launched earlier only in multiplexes, which were only dealing with a certain premium audience, but now it's breaking through to villages and small towns as well, and I think that's the big reason why I am so bullish on this this creator space because I generally do think the next like superstars will come from this space. It's not going to. I mean, yes, you will have people who will get picked out right from college and theater, but I think people will audition through this mechanism. They will have a POC. Yeah. Super interesting.
So that is definitely happening. What I meant is that is definitely happening, that creators are becoming the stars. What I mean to say is, I think both hold a very different space, and there is a face value that goes for both separately. So that's what I meant.
For sure.
Yeah.
And to touch upon this aspect, Deepti, and I think that's also which is very different, right? And both you and Paras have your own expertise. Siddhi has her own passions as well, but you've really focused on fashion, and Paras, you've really focused on grooming, right? And that's the biggest difference, because even from a brand perspective, if I'm going to a celebrity, sure, I'll work with a John Abraham or a, I don't know, like Ranveer Singh, etc. We know that they are not responsible in a large way for their own grooming, right? Or those products are not being used by them. And that's the biggest difference, right? Because you're not just creators who are entertaining, you're also experts, right? And I think that's the biggest difference why I feel like it's a separate parallel.
That's also, and that's so interesting because, for example, and this was something which I think one of the reasons I think Paras and Uske took off so well is because I never made an effort on my camera to look a certain way. This is how I always am, and I think people
Sure.
related to that because they said, okay, he's a grooming expert, but he's keeping it real. You have a pimple, you're showing it. Your hair is falling, you're showing it. Because I think with the actors, like you rightly said, when you're endorsing a product, you've got a whole team of hair and makeup people who are there with you, right? I'd be on videos half the time saying, guys, I've got so many hickeys, I need to hide these. I've got a pimple here which I need to hide, or I've got a rash or something. So I think what happened is people would relate, say, yeah, man, this happens to us every day. Because I think the myth it broke was the fact that if you were a beauty expert, you had to look radiant the entire time. When they said,
Right.
actually, that's not true because the realistic thing of that is different. I want to go back to what Deepthi was saying, which I thought that was so funny when you were saying a lot of the actors, a lot of influencers now who are on TV. I would see it would be incredible to see so much jealousy from some of the actors where they would say these TikTok stars are now being cast in all these music videos. They say, अरे उन्होंने तो कुछ भी नहीं किया तो अपने फोन पे videos बनाते थे, now look where they are. I think
Yeah.
that barrier suddenly broke last year because everyone realized that that they had to sort of step off their high horse because every producer realized every music video was going to be popular more on social media, right? So why not cast people who are already popular on the digital platform? So I thought that was very interesting to sit with between actors who would be saying, but what have they done except for making TikToks? Now that okay, fine, we realize that that's just one more way to do it. Like Siddhi said earlier, they would ask for your pictures. Today they just go to your Instagram. So I think that shift has been a leveler for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean,
Interesting.
I mean, to add on to that, I felt like there is a divide between the South and the North, or the Bollywood. Well, the South is still a little laid back. I mean, couple of them still want your portfolios or whatever it is, right? And the part where you said, "Arey, ye log ne kya kiya," and all of that. I think that divide is still not there in the South yet, with because it's very authentic. And let me just clear the air out where they say are spot dada and then hairstylist, makeup and all. I didn't have anybody. I just had one person, and just that one person who did the makeup for all the rest of the cast as well. And I think until unless you become a mega star like Rajnikant or a Samantha Prabhu, that's when you get your own spot dada and then
Right.
the hairstylist and all of that. So yeah, there is a hazy, what do you say, like a Disneyland which is created, that the aura that is created, that all these actors who work behind camera for movies, it is like a Disneyland. It is not. It is very, very difficult. And I'm not sure about the ego or whatever that you just made that statement. Paris just made that statement. But it is very, very, very difficult to act in a certain way that some 10 people expect you to do it. And while it's just easy to just be in front of your phone and do what you like, I think that's the difference that we have. That
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the challenge. I think the rest of us have to overcome.
True. Cool. My next question is, so one is of course thinking of whether creators or celebrities from a consumer lens, like or from the audience's lens, and then the other part is thinking it from the brands or the marketeers lens. And we're going to try and talk a little bit about that. So and so here and this is my work as well, right? Which is where we're talking to brands consistently, helping them understand who their right set of creators are across mediums now, right? And it's moving beyond just the mobile screen. We're seeing our creators being used for product packaging, on billboards, on traditional TVCs. It's breaking through that. So it's really interesting. But the challenge is there, right? I mean, one, I think for a business, you're thinking about, hey, if I'm investing in someone, they have to have national appeal, right? It cannot be that they are only popular with those 2 million people. And I think that's the challenge over there. And that's the biggest comparison that happens, right? That is that important according to you guys? Is it better for, let's say, a brand to work with 5 creators versus 1 celebrity, if I may use that comparison? And what's been your experience today working with brands, if you do work with brands extensively on collaborations? How what sort of inputs or insights would you have to share with them? If any one of you want to start,
Sure.
or
I can start.
yeah, go
So,
for it, Deepthi.
when it comes to brands, of course, when brands reach out to you for collaborations, like for me, I keep a couple of things in mind. That is, would I buy that brand? Would I personally use it? Okay, that's one of the things. And second, would your audience actually invest in that brand? So is there a connection between the brand and the audience? And what happens is a lot of brands, of course, they are, there's a trend right now of micro influencers, as we're aware, the nano influencers. So
Right.
the brands would want to pick up micro influencers along with maybe a couple of celebrities. Now, those could be either the content creators, big celebrities, or the TV stars or the films. So it's kind of always a mix wherein they'll tell you that, okay, this is what we are looking to do, this is what the budget that we have, and what can you do for us? So I think what's important here is to kind of analyze that, would this fit in your value system? Are you a creator who can promote this particular brand, and would they get any benefit out of it? So that's the way I start my brand growth.
Makes sense. And and even with our experiences, those have all been formulas and things that we try and ensure. So well said. Anas, do you want to talk a little bit about this, because I want you to share this from two perspectives. One is, of course, if you do brand collaborations and you work with other brands, but you have your own brand, and that's where you would have directly seen the impact of sales. And have you ever considered, I don't know, using other creators or other celebrities for your brand? And yeah, so I think that would be interesting to know. So, and also for maybe people who don't know, give us a little bit of exposure to the fact that outside of being an entertainer and a creator, you run the business of manufacturing, producing great products, and then serving that to your audiences as well. So that's a little bit about
So
that.
interestingly enough, I think for the first part, which is about the brand part, I think a lot of, maybe it's just me because I'm a talking head. So I think a lot of the brands who come to you over maybe other influencers because they want someone to actually not just pose with the product, but they want to sort of either understand the ethos, or they want to understand what the product does for you. So I think in that sense, people like me have an advantage, because I think a lot of times they want to go beyond just the posing in the video where you're just looking nice with the product. So I think that is where influencers, I think, ranked a little higher about traditional models and celebrities, because there was more value add. For my own brand, actually, we did try some influencer marketing where we hired a couple of influencers, where we did some barters, where we also paid a few people, but we never saw sales, because I realized that I think selling products is also, I realized that when you're doing a direct sale of a product, it doesn't really work as an influencer. I think in my case, it was always the fact that Paris was already doing these things. You always saw me making the nuske that I was doing. So I feel that whenever we sort of spend some money in getting other influencers to try and market my products, that muffin and nuske, they never really took. We also had a couple of Bollywood actors and some other actors who, endorsed my products. We knew a lot of them, right? It may, on a perceptual level, have helped the brand at some level, but most directly did not. I didn't get any richer because of that, at least. But I think in terms of just, even for us, it's very challenging, because influencer-led brands, I became one of the first few influencer-led brands in India. In the West, it's very popular. It's been there for almost a decade. We're only now coming into this, right? So what also happens is it was new for everyone to be like, hey, wait, hang on, this is your brand. Like, you manufacture it. Like, are you just putting a name and face to it, or is that something that you really do? So I think when people understood that this is not something you're just putting a name and face to, this is something you're wholly and solely now responsible for. I think for a lot of people, even my own interaction with the followers changed, because now they were also customers. So, what happens is then you're also completely moving away from being an influencer to actually being my page now is a complete out and out brand page. You know what I mean? So the biggest challenge there sometimes is, and I've been very lucky with this, when I started the brands, my fear was people will start unfollowing you if you're just selling a product every single day. But I don't know how it happened, but a lot of followers actually stuck around, because they said, okay, this is a brand page, he's telling us new products and I like it. So I think, that was also something I had to be very mindful of, saying people shouldn't, there's also overkill of marketing. So I think that becomes a challenge as an influencer and a brand owner, because, that becomes the third part when you say, do I still endorse other brands? Yes, I do. If it's a direct competition to one of my products, I may not. But I still continue to do ads as a model for television. In fact, we just shot a commercial for a mattress brand. I don't make mattresses, so that was not a problem at all. But, like stuff like that.
You do sleep.
Somebody called me for some deodorant commercial the other day. Said, I have my own deodorant. And they wanted me to model it. Okay, I said, I don't want to do TVC. So yes, sometimes there is a conflict of interest now.
Interesting, man. Yeah, so Siddhi, before I come to you on this topic, I just wanted to add, and I think, every time we're talking about digital storytelling, I think the one thing that really is that cuts through is the fact that there is trust and authenticity that you want to bring to the conversation. And every time you do that is wins, right? So Deepthi is also saying, I'm not going to recommend a product that I don't believe in, right? Same thing with Paras, right? He's going to do far better if he's highly involved in that product. And I think that's the big difference. The way brands have used celebrities, it's brand awareness and brand value. The more you go towards the the middle half and the bottom of the funnel, when you're trying to actually not just associate a Shah Rukh Khan's brand imagery with a Sandro, and you're actually trying to say that he actually drives this car and knows what he's talking about, right? Is when the creator becomes a far, in my opinion, the bigger winner. Because and that's when you have to question as a business that, hey, if you are introducing yourself today, are you first trying to just get a brand value associated to you, and that's your objective? Perhaps maybe an A grade and national level celebrity might be your answer, but it comes at a particular premium. Or if you're looking at really building a community of people who understand and believe in your product, I think for that, to me, creators absolutely win that battle, because they're experts more than and they're human, right? They're themselves. They're sleeping on a mattress, and they're dancing and doing things that they actually enjoy doing, and that's what people are able to see. So Siddhi, do you want to talk a little bit about how you think about brand collaborations and what works for you, what doesn't, and yeah.
I think I would just say same as Deepthi. Whatever represents me, or whatever I believe that this product is worth it, and that's how I take up collaborations. But I also feel like there are some times when, okay, this will work out. Like this is something that I use daily as well. But there are some times when the campaign itself has certain kind of restrictions in terms of how you can put it out to the audience, right? That is a barrier that I really want to break. And, I think brands should also be a little, what do you say, adjusting, if that's the word that I'm allowed to use, in terms of, what about my ideas? Like this can also work. But again, they are really concerned about whether this is going to add up to the engagement and likes and comments, etc. But I think that's one thing that I just wanted to bring it out there.
Yeah, that's true, Siddhi. And I think the problem is that most of these marketing heads, and all due respect to the skills and experiences that they've had, this is just so new that many of them are still thinking of it in the traditional way, right? Where every piece of branded content that I put out there needs to be perfect. And that's not how it works on digital. The more realistic it is, it's great if your pimple is showing and you're still saying that, hey, this is what, it doesn't have to be this fake, like, situation that is created for the audience. You're not the difference is, and if I may say this, advertising was about lying creatively to your audience, versus now it is about being a lot more honest and being candid about that, and letting the pure value of your product shine through in that way. So I think that's the learning curve that a lot of us are trying to build that industry into. And there are pros and cons to it as well, because a lot of time creators, because they so naturally are candid, they forget that when they need to associate with a brand, it cannot be that their personal personal avatar is stronger than the brand, right? And in order to put the brand in a better light, you have to do it slightly differently as well. So learnings are happening on both sides, but I think these last few years have really powered that. And it's interesting, Paras, when you're saying that pure, and we're seeing this, we're all having this conversation. Brands are super excited about social commerce. We've seen impact of it in China. We've seen US create a lot, or the Western markets create a lot of influencer-led brands. And I think the core difference between that has also been that, hey, it's moved from one-off endorsements to more deeper long-term partnerships. And the more we've seen that happen, right, is when you consistently are using the same creators, building advocacy, loyalty through that, is when it matters. And I guess that's the fine difference between being an influencer and a social seller, because then you are genuinely involved in talking about that product, right? It's not this one-off post that you do. It's more than that. So is that why, Paras, you feel like when you're working with other influencers versus when you're doing your own stuff, like really in it, that makes a big difference?
It is, in fact, not just with other influencers. I also feel a big difference when I'm modeling or acting on a set. I actually, so for Luske by Paras and for Stud Muffin, we actually, we thought, okay, we're a brand now. Let's do some, where we went higher budgets, we shot campaigns at better things, we realized all the content that was underproduced, which was shot on a mobile phone, performed better and gave us better sales, as opposed to us spending more money to make a proper per se ad. Now that was a revelation, because what's your assumption? Your assumption is the fact that if your content is better produced, it'll get you more sales, right? But no, as a brand, at least for my brand, when it was more underproduced, the content which looked more real, it was shot on a camera, my background looked the way it didn't look like we had a hair and makeup artist and a better camera. That was more organic, it was more real, and people sort of related to it much more. So I think that was definitely a big difference, where I feel like as a creator, my content is always underproduced. It's been 2 years for Nuske by Paras. We haven't now moved to a better setup. I don't shoot in a studio. It's still made in a way, it's still shot in a kitchen where people think probably I'm sitting and making these creams at home and putting them in my refrigerator. Where sometimes we have to tell people, saying, guys, we have a factory, we have licenses. I obviously don't sit to make every cream on my own. But I think the fact that they think you do is fantastic, because they also feel that you're that involved with every single bottle that comes. So I feel underproducing content actually is a great way for people to feel it's more organic.
True, and we're seeing this otherwise. I mean, and my biggest the objection that I have many times with creators is that they're some of them, and I know I binged through your content last night, but many of them are talking about one product in the morning and another in the evening, right? And that's not good for the creator either. Neither is it good for the business. So I think the industry is realizing that, and it's a lot to do with budgets, right? I mean, because what the brand is thinking is that, hey, I want 10 influencers or 100 influencers, and I want one story and one post to be done, right? It's coming with this like media buying mentality, right? Like I want distribution, and I think that's really where it needs to become a whole lot more engaged, and use them as digital brand ambassadors rather than just influencers. If I may again use that. Super interesting. We don't have too much time, and I have so much to ask you guys. But one of the things I was really like curious to just sort of understand: how do you guys come up with content every day? Brands struggle. Like if you see brands' social pages, organic content has just died. I don't know whether Instagram has killed it and Facebook has killed it to make money of them, but it has died. How do you just keep doing this? Like, isn't it exhausting? Isn't it tiring to post something every day? How does that happen? Anyone, or whoever feels like jumping onto it.
Sure. So, no, absolutely, it is very exhausting to create content, and the conceptual, when you're conceptualizing, that's even tougher, because you have to always think of different ideas, like how differently you can do it. But with content creators, one thing which is there is we have an audience, okay, with whom we are interacting on a regular basis through stories or through Instagram stories or reels, etc. And there is a constant interaction wherein they tell you, okay, we would like to see more of this. Why don't you do some yoga stuff, or why don't you create some content which would help us? So I think now, for me, I see that people are asking more of value in terms of the content that we are creating. So of course, looking nice, promoting the brand, be fashionable, talking about all those fashion brands is great. But at the same time, now there is a very huge demand of how you're adding value to those life, to their life. And I
Sure.
think that's where you have to conceptually think in terms of how you can do it differently. That, for example, talking about your own experience, like now I see that every second day there's a new influencer or a content creator coming up. So, they want to know from your experience in terms of how do we become one, where do we start? Or even for small businesses too, how can they be as successful as a content creator? How can they start something? So I think adding value is the way forward for content creation is what I feel, and it is always exhausting to shoot every 2 days. Like I shoot twice a week, so of course there is hair, makeup. Sometimes you're real, and sometimes you have to be real, depending on what the brand is asking. Sometimes, so
Yeah.
it's a mix of both, actually. Yeah.
अच्छा मेरे लिए तो उल्टा है.
Awesome.
When you say how do you think of so much content, I have to half the time hold back content because I have so much. What happens on a day? You're like, okay, I've already put up like 3 videos, 4 videos. Like, Paras, calm down. Now the reason that happens is because, at least for my style, I'm basically a documentary filmmaker where I'm basically documenting my own life. So what happens is, because you're constantly sharing spice of life things, and I'm not really getting rest, I'm not doing anything, I'm never really sitting down saying I have to make content right now, because you're constantly just documenting what's happening in your life. there's always enough content. You're cooking lunch, you got video. You're getting ready for something, you got a OOTD video. You're going to the gym, you got a workout video. So I think some level of narcissism goes great with content making because you want to basically share everything you're doing. So my problem is exactly the ulta. Like I said, I was like, I have to be like, okay, calm down, Paris. Too much content has happened today. So I have content for the next 5 days. If I don't shoot anything for the next 5-6 days, I have like 3 videos per day I can still put up. So I sit on a big bank.
Nice, nice. Much like I feel like this session is, there's just so much content. I mean, I can go on, and I can already see Soham as the time is up. And but Siddhi, do you want to share your last bits on this before we conclude and we open up to questions?
Yeah, my ideology is completely very different from both of yours. I don't
Interesting.
I don't have that pressure in my head that अरे आज तो content create करना ही पड़ेगा and then I have to put it out there. I have to shoot
Nice.
something. Again, like my Instagram or talking about Instagram, right? That's where I am where I put out my content. So when there is something that's running in my head, that's when I go shoot it and I put it. And then for weeks, I'm just not there. But I don't kind of think through as in like, am I going to lose my followers? Are they going to stop following me? Are they thinking about, okay, why am I not putting more content? Why am I not uploading more content or whatever it is? It's just that I don't like that pressure in my head where I just feel like my content will be diluted and it just won't be me. So that's just how I work. There's something that works in my head, shoot it that day and then put it out. So
Makes sense.
yeah.
Love it. I love this scene, man. It's you know, and a lot of brands come and say that, hey, why are creators charging so much? They just have to pick up their mobile phone and shoot. I'm like, hey, you know, Picasso also just had to like pick up his paintbrush and paint. Like, you know, cricketer has to go out there and just play. It's an art what you guys do, and I think a lot of brands, a lot of marketeers, including me, all of us just struggle with being so natural, with you know, being able to express yourself day in day out, and you know, build those niche audiences and communities. So massive kudos, really excited. And I think you know, and I try to touch upon this, I genuinely believe this, and I think a lot of our conversations have validated this. Creators and celebrities are intermingling, they're sort of connecting. Creators are becoming celebrities, celebrities are becoming creators. But to me, these two industries are an absolute parallel. They're a different art, and they're a different business. And you know, we're at a very interesting space where the industry is in India, and stay tuned to know more about what's going to happen. Going to pass the mic to Soham, who is going to tell us that we're done with time.
Oh, it was a great conversation, guys. I think Pranay has moderated a very effective conversation and and shown the ecosystem what it can be. Thank you, Siddhi, Paras, Deepthi, for sharing your insights on how it what's the life of an influencer or a creator, to per se. This marks the end of Pixels 2021. We like to thank our partner, platinum partner, Apps Flyer, and the whole and all the speakers and moderators who have attended the session today. It was great talking to everybody, and looking forward for the next year.
Thanks, guys. Thanks to everyone for joining. Appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much for taking the time off.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.